You are standing on the precipice of a decision that was made for you long before you walked into this building. The ink on the merger agreement is dry, but the terms of your surrender haven't even been spoken yet. You believe you are here to salvage your department, to prove your worth to the new ownership, to demonstrate the cold, hard logic that made you the youngest executive in the firm's history. But logic has no place in this room. The air pressure here is different, heavier, charged with a static that makes the hair on your arms stand up in a primal warning. This isn't a boardroom anymore. It's a den. And the man waiting for you behind those double mahogany doors didn't spend billions acquiring your company for its market share. He bought the cage so he could keep the prize inside. The summons came at an hour when honest business had long since concluded. Your phone vibrated against the mahogany of your nightstand, a single, demanding pulse that woke you from a restless sleep. No subject line, just a location and a time. Executive Suite, midnight. The sender was a name that had been whispered in fear across the financial district for weeks. Silas Vane, the man who dismantled corporations with the efficiency of a wolf tearing through a herd. You told yourself it was a test, a loyalty check, a power play to see if you would jump when he snapped his fingers. So you dressed in your armor, the tailored blazer, the pencil skirt, the heels that clicked like gunfire against the marble floors of the lobby. The building is a tomb at this hour. The security guard at the front desk didn't ask for your ID. He just nodded, his eyes wide, smelling the fear on you, even if you couldn't smell it on yourself. The elevator ride up to the 45th floor felt like an ascent into a different atmosphere. With every floor that passed, the air grew thinner, the silence louder. You practiced your opening lines in the reflection of the steel doors. You prepared arguments about quarterly projections and client retention rates. You tried to convince yourself that you were walking into a negotiation. But when the elevator doors slide open, the reality hits you like a physical wave. The entire floor is dark, save for the light spilling from under the double doors at the end of the hall. The silence isn't empty. It's waiting. It's the heavy, thick silence of a forest before a strike. You step out, and the sound of your heels is swallowed by the plush carpet, muffling your approach. It feels wrong. The modern glass and steel of the office usually feels sterile, safe. Tonight, the shadows seem to stretch toward you, guiding you down the corridor. There is a scent in the air that shouldn't be here. It's not the lemon polish of the cleaning crew or the stale coffee of the break room. It's rich and dark, burned cedar, ozone, and something unmistakably male. It triggers a response in your hindbrain that you can't suppress. Your heart rate spikes, not from anxiety, but from adrenaline. Your palms dampen, and a strange heat coils in your stomach, a traitorous reaction to the threat looming ahead. Your body knows what is waiting for you, even if your mind refuses to accept it. You reach the heavy doors. Your hand hovers over the brass handle. It's cold against your palm, grounding you for a split second. You take a breath, trying to fill your lungs with professional detachment, but the air is already his. You push the door open. The room is vast, a cavern of shadows and city lights. The floor-to-ceiling windows frame the skyline, turning the world below into insignificant specks of light. He is standing there, his back to you, a silhouette cut from the darkness itself. He doesn't turn around when you enter. He doesn't need to. He heard your heartbeat the moment the elevator arrived. He smelled the spike in your cortisol when you read his email. "You're late," he says. His voice is a low rumble, a tectonic shift that you feel in your chest rather than hear with your ears. It's not an accusation. It's a statement of fact, delivered with the absolute authority of a creature that controls time itself. You open your mouth to apologize, to explain, but the words die in your throat. He turns slowly, and the moonlight catches the predatory gleam in his eyes. In that second, the merger, the contracts, the job titles, they all disintegrate. You realize with terrifying clarity that you haven't walked into a meeting. You've walked into a claiming. The predatory gleam in his eyes tells you everything you need to know. The world outside the office ceases to exist, a fact punctuated by the finality of the lock behind you. The heavy click of the latch behind you sounds like a gunshot in a canyon. It is a final, mechanical sound that severs the connection to the hallway, to the elevator, and to the world of safety protocols you left behind in the lobby. You don't turn to check if it's locked. You don't have to. The vibration of the mechanism travels through the floorboards and up your heels, a tremor that whispers a single truth. There is no way out but through him. Silas doesn't offer you a seat. In the boardrooms you're used to, there is a choreography to power. Handshakes, the offering of water, the polite fiction of equality. Here, there is only the stillness of an apex predator watching a deer that has wandered into the clearing. He stands by the window, his silhouette breaking the grid of the city lights behind him. He is massive, his shoulders stretching the fabric of a suit that costs more than your first car. Yet he wears it with an indifference that suggests he would be more comfortable in nothing at all. You clutch the leather portfolio to your chest, a paper shield against a nuclear threat. Your knuckles are white, the only betrayal of the composure you are fighting to maintain. Mr. Vane, you start, your voice thin and reedy in the cavernous space. Regarding the acquisition terms for the marketing division, I have the amended projections you requested. He doesn't answer. He just breathes. And even that simple, involuntary action feels dominant. You can hear the air filling his lungs, a deep, rhythmic draw that seems to suck the oxygen out of your own corner of the room. He steps away from the window, and the movement is wrong. It is too smooth, too fluid for a man of his size. There is no wasted energy, no human hesitation. He moves like water flowing downhill, inevitable and heavy. He circles the massive oak desk that separates you, his fingers trailing over the polished wood. The sound of his skin against the grain is louder than the traffic 45 floors below. He is dismantling the barriers between you, not with force, but with presence. As he rounds the corner of the desk, the scent hits you again, stronger this time. It isn't just cologne. It is a biological signal, a pheromonal command that bypasses your prefrontal cortex and strikes directly at the base of your spine. The scent saturates the air, pressing against your skin like a physical weight, rewriting your synapses to recognize only him. Your knees threaten to buckle. It is an infuriating physiological betrayal. You are a vice president. You have negotiated million-dollar contracts without blinking. You have fired men twice your age. But here, in the shadow of this man, your body remembers a hierarchy older than capitalism. Your pulse flutters in your throat, a visible bird trapped in a cage of skin. He sees it. His eyes drop to the hollow of your neck, tracking the frantic rhythm of your fear. The projections, he says finally, his voice a low vibration that you feel in your teeth. Do you truly believe that is why you are here? He stops 3 feet from you. It is too close for business, yet not close enough to touch. The heat radiating off him is palpable, a furnace concealed in wool and silk. The silence of the empty floor presses in on your eardrums. There are no phones ringing, no janitorial carts rattling in the distance, no hum of servers. Just the sound of your own breathing, ragged and shallow, and the steady, predatory rhythm of his. You look around the room, your eyes darting to the corners, the shadows, looking for a witness, a camera, anything to anchor you to the reality of the 21st century. But the office is a void. The glass walls that usually signify transparency now only serve to highlight your isolation. You are suspended in the sky, cut off from the herd, alone with the wolf who owns the building. The staff were dismissed at 6, he murmurs, taking one more step. The distance closes. The air between you thickens, becoming a physical substance that coats your tongue. Security has been routed to the lower levels. The cameras on this floor are dormant. He looms over you, blotting out the city lights, becoming your entire horizon. There is no one to document this merger, no legal team to redline the clauses. There is only the asset. He tilts his head, a gesture that is both curious and hungry, and the owner. Your grip on the portfolio loosens. The papers inside, the projections and the charts suddenly feel like artifacts from a forgotten civilization. They don't matter here. The currency in this room isn't equity or stock options. It is submission. And as his gaze locks onto yours, heavy and unblinking, you realize that your bank account is empty, and he has come to collect the debt in the only currency you have left to give. The space to the door feels like miles of open tundra. The mahogany doors didn't just close, they sealed the atmosphere. The pressure in the room drops, creating a vacuum, pulling you toward him. You try to anchor yourself on the room's details, a leather book, glinting crystal on the bar, but your senses are being rewritten. Your world has narrowed down to the heat radiating from his chest and the scent saturating the air. It is a musk speaking to your oldest instincts, bypassing logic and your MBA. It tells you safety lies only in yielding. He watches you with dark, unblinking eyes. A low sound vibrates in his chest, a rumble of amusement you feel in your feet. He knows you are looking for an exit strategy. Your portfolio crushes under your grip, leather creaking. He reaches out with the terrifying inevitability of a glacier. His hand covers yours. His palm is rough, hot, and large enough to encompass both your hands. He doesn't pull. He waits. The weight of his hand is a command. It is a physical assertion of ownership, making your breath hitch. You try to cling to the projections, but your fingers betray you, losing strength under his touch. "Let go," he whispers. The words stroke down your spine like a physical caress. "You don't need shields in here." You release the portfolio. He slides it from your grasp and tosses it onto the desk without looking. The sound signals your defense mechanism being discarded. Now there is nothing between you. No desk, no paperwork, just the man who bought your company and the woman realizing she is inventory. He steps closer. The air around him is a physical weight, dense with his intent. You should step back. Your survival instinct screams to retreat, to put distance between you. But your body refuses to move. It is frozen, not in terror, but in anticipation. Your pulse hammers a frantic rhythm he tracks with his eyes. He collapses the distance until you must tilt your head back. The movement exposes your throat. It is a gesture of submission your body offered before your mind could protest. Your pulse is hammering a staccato rhythm against your throat, he observes, his voice dropping an octave, a vibration rattling your ribs. Are you afraid of what I might do? Or are you afraid because you know exactly what is about to happen, and you want it? The question hangs heavy. You can't speak. The connection to your voice is severed by his presence. He lifts a hand, his knuckles grazing sensitive skin under your jaw. The touch is electric, sending a shockwave of heat that makes your knees buckle. You sway, and his other hand is there instantly, settling on your hip to steady you. His grip is firm, possessive, branding you through the fabric of your skirt. "Breathe," he commands. "The air is thin up here, but I have enough for both of us." You inhale, and his scent fills you completely. Cedar, rain, and the dark, intoxicating smell of absolute authority. It clouds your judgment. It makes the idea of fighting him seem exhausted and pointless. Why fight gravity? Why fight the tide? Standing here, in the shadow of his build, the burden of your career, your responsibilities, the constant need to prove yourself, it all begins to dissolve. The weight is lifting, replaced by the heavier, grounding weight of his claim. He isn't just taking over your company. He is taking over the burden of your existence. You feel the terrifying, seductive pull of letting go and allowing the beast to win. He moves you toward the desk. It isn't a shove, it is a redirection of gravity. You follow because your legs are no longer taking orders from your executive brain. They are obeying the heat signature of the predator at your back. The room seems to tilt, sliding you inevitably toward the massive ebony surface that dominates the center of the suite. On the desk, the clutter of typical business, the phones, the monitors, the framed photos of a life outside these walls, is gone. There is only a single document, resting on the leather blotter like a verdict. He presses you down into the high-backed leather chair. It is still warm from where he sat, waiting for you. The leather creaks, a sound of protest that mirrors the tightness in your chest. He doesn't sit opposite you. That would imply negotiation. That would imply two sides of a table, two equal parties coming to an agreement. Instead, he moves behind you. You feel him before you see him, a wall of solid heat blocking your retreat. His hands come down on the armrests, boxing you in. You are surrounded by the scent of him, that dark mixture of wood smoke, ozone, and musk that makes your head swim and your pupils dilate until the room is nothing but shadows. "Look at it," he commands. The voice vibrates through the back of the chair, traveling up your spine to settle at the base of your skull. You look. The document isn't the merger agreement you spent weeks redlining with your legal team. It is a single page on heavy cream-colored stock. Executive Retention Agreement. But as your eyes scan the legalese, the words seem to blur and reshape. Exclusive rights, total availability, indefinite term. In the fluorescent light of a law office, these are standard clauses designed to protect intellectual property. Here, in the dark, with his breath ghosting over the shell of your ear, they read like the specifications of a caller. "I don't acquire companies for their market share," he murmurs, his lips brushing the sensitive skin where your neck meets your shoulder. A shiver violently racks your frame, betraying you instantly. "I acquire them for their assets, and you are the only asset in this building that matters." The realization hits you with the force of a physical blow, knocking the air from your lungs. The hostile takeover, the aggressive buyout price that baffled the analysts, the systematic dismantling of the board. It wasn't business strategy, it was a hunt. He spent billions not to own a brand, but to corner you, in this room, on this night, with no witnesses but the moon. Your professional indignation tries to flare up. You want to ask about your stock options, your severance package, your rights, but the words disintegrate under the weight of his presence. His hands slide from the armrest to your shoulders, his thumbs pressing into the tension knots at the base of your neck. It isn't a massage. It is a test of the structural integrity of your resolve. He is checking for cracks in the armor you have worn for a decade. "You built this department," he says, his voice dropping lower, a growl wrapped in velvet. "You organized the chaos. You controlled the variables. But you never accounted for the variable that would control you." His fingers tighten, not enough to bruise, but enough to remind you of the disparity in strength. You are a woman who has lived by the power of her mind, by the sharpness of her tongue. But against the sheer biological reality of him, those weapons are useless. You are realizing that you don't want to use them. There is a traitorous relief blooming in your chest, a dark, warm liquid spreading through your veins. The exhaustion of being in charge, of being the strong one, is melting away under the heat of his hands. He is offering you the one thing you have never had, the freedom of absolute surrender. He reaches past you, his arm brushing against your cheek, thick with muscle and intent. He picks up a heavy fountain pen. The gold nib glints in the low light like a fang. He holds it out to you, not as a tool, but as the key to your own cage. "Sign it," he whispers, the command final and absolute. "Accept your place." The pen hovers in your vision. Your hand lifts, trembling, not with fear, but with the overwhelming need to obey. The ink is black, the paper is white, but the contract is written in the oldest language of all. Your fingers tighten around the gold barrel of the pen, the metal warming instantly against your skin. It feels less like a writing instrument and more like the trigger of a weapon pointed directly at your own autonomy. You hesitate, the nib hovering millimeters above the signature line, the black ink threatening to bleed into the fiber of the paper before you even make a mark. Your mind is still trying to process the impossible mathematics of this situation. You know the numbers. You ran the valuation models yourself. The price Silas Vane paid for this firm was irrational. It was exorbitant. It defied every metric of modern finance. A sum so large it made the shareholders weep with joy and the analysts question his sanity. The board members were easy, he continues, his tone dismissive, as if he were discussing the removal of a minor pest. They saw the zeros on the check and didn't ask a single question. They didn't care about the legacy. They didn't care about the employees. And they certainly didn't care about you. His hand slides from the armrest to cover yours, his fingers wrapping around your fist, encompassing both your hand and the pen. His grip is iron hard, a stark contrast to the gentle, almost mocking caress of his thumb against your wrist. He is showing you the difference between the illusion of control you thought you had and the absolute reality of his strength. "They sold you," he whispers, the words brushing against your ear like velvet-wrapped steel. "They took their golden parachutes and they left you here, wrapped in a bow of corporate bylaws, waiting for me to come and unwrap you." The air in the room shifts, growing heavier, charged with the static of his confession. You understand now that the billions were merely the scalpel used to excise the interference, to remove the layers of bureaucracy until nothing stood between him and you. He used billions of dollars as a scalpel to cut away the interference, to remove the layers of bureaucracy and protection until there was nothing left standing between him and you. "I didn't buy a company," he says, the growl in his voice deepening, resonating in your chest. "I bought the perimeter. I bought the walls that keep the world out and keep you in. I bought the silence of this building so that when you finally scream, the only one who hears it is me." He guides your hand down. The nib touches the paper. The black ink blooms, a dark stain on the pristine surface. "The due diligence files were not about revenue streams. They were about you. I know how you take your coffee. I know the sound of your heels in the hallway at 2 a.m. I know that you are the only thing in this city that is real." His breath hitches, a sharp intake of air that smells of desire and violence. "And I do not share what is mine." The ink flows onto the page, dark and irrevocable. It isn't just a signature, it is a capitulation. The loops of your name look foreign, shaky, as if written by someone who existed before the air pressure dropped and the world narrowed to the span of his shoulders. You watch the wet sheen of the ink, mesmerizing and terrifying. It is the only thing in the room that is clearly defined. Everything else is a blur of shadow and the overwhelming, radiating heat of the man standing behind you. "Done," he murmurs. The word is a heavy stone dropped into a deep well. It ripples through the silence, settling in the marrow of your bones. He releases your hand slowly, peeling his fingers away one by one. The loss of his contact is a sudden, cold shock. You almost reach back, a pathetic, instinctive need to be held by the force that trapped you. He takes the pen. The soft click of the cap being secured sounds like a lock snapping home. He doesn't check if the paper is binding. The law here was written in your pulse the moment you walked through the door. He grips the back of the leather chair and spins you around. The movement is smooth, controlled, but the force behind it is undeniable. The room blurs, the skyline, the mahogany, the empty glass walls, until your vision stops, filled entirely by him. Silas Vane is not wearing the mask of a CEO anymore. The jacket is unbuttoned, revealing the expanse of a chest that seems too broad for a boardroom. He leans back against the edge of the desk, crossing his ankles, his hands gripping the wood on either side of his hips. It is a casual pose, deceptive in its ease. You can see the tension in his forearms, the cords of muscle shifting under the fine cotton of his shirt. He is a predator at rest, watching the prey realize there is nowhere left to run. "You thought you could negotiate," he says, his voice a low thrum that vibrates in the floorboards beneath your heels. "You prepared charts. You memorized figures. You thought you could trade value for autonomy." He tilts his head, tracking the rapid rise and fall of your chest. "But you have no value to me as a partner. I don't need your strategy. I don't need your mind sharpening itself against mine." He pushes off the desk. One step closes the distance. He towers over you, forcing you to crane your neck, exposing the vulnerable line of your throat. The air around him smells of storm clouds and burned sugar, a scent that makes your mouth water and your stomach clench in a knot of anticipation. I need your surrender, he whispers. His hand lifts, large and heavy, and brushes a stray lock of hair from your cheek. His fingers are rough, calloused, the hands of a man who builds and destroys. He tucks the hair behind your ear, his thumb lingering on the pulse point that is hammering a frantic rhythm against his skin. And now that the company is mine, he continues, his thumb tracing the line of your jaw, tipping your face up to meet his dark, unyielding stare. The assets are mine to liquidate, or to keep. You try to summon the professional woman who walked into the lobby an hour ago, but she is gone. She dissolved the moment his scent hit your lungs. In her place is something softer, something ancient, something that wants to close its eyes and lean into the terrifying comfort of his hand. Stand up, he commands. It isn't a request. Your body obeys before your brain can process the order. You rise, your legs trembling, your heels sinking into the plush carpet. You are standing in the wreckage of your career, in the heart of the city you thought you conquered, and you have never felt more powerless. Or more alive. He looks down at you, and for the first time, you see a flicker of satisfaction in his eyes. It isn't the satisfaction of a deal closed. It is the satisfaction of a hunger finally about to be fed. The merger is complete, he says, his voice dropping to a growl that resonates in your core. Now the real work begins. You try to retreat into the one fortress that has never failed you, your resume. You straighten your spine, a reflex honed in 1,000 boardroom battles, and attempt to look him in the eye as an equal. You open your mouth to speak, to cite your tenure, your team's performance, the quarterly earnings that you personally salvage from the red. You want to tell him that you are not inventory, that you are a partner, a vice president, a woman who commands respect in this city. I expect my position to remain unchanged, you say. Your voice is steady, but it lacks the weight it carries in daylight. Here, in the dark, it sounds thin. My contract stipulates autonomy. My team reports to me, not to a shadow management structure. Silas laughs. It is a terrifying sound, low, dry, and devoid of humor. It is the sound of a wolf amused by a rabbit thumping its foot. He steps closer, effectively erasing the concept of personal space. The heat radiating from his chest feels like a physical wall pushing you backward until your calves hit the edge of the heavy oak desk. The desk edge bites into your skin, a sharp reminder of the physical world you are rapidly losing your grip on. You are trapped between the symbol of your authority and the man who just purchased it. Your position, he repeats, tasting the words like a fine wine he intends to spit out. Let us be clear about your position. He places a hand on the desk on either side of you, caging you in. His face descends until he is inches from yours. You can see the flecks of gold in his irises, the dilation of his pupils as he inhales your scent. Your position is no longer defined by an organizational chart. It is not defined by a salary band or a corner office. Those were the toys I let you keep while I circled the perimeter, waiting for the fence to rot. He leans in, his nose brushing against your jawline, inhaling deeply. Your position is right here, under my hand, under my gaze. You are the vice president of absolutely nothing. The department you built? It's mine. The strategies you developed? Mine. The very air you are breathing in this room belongs to me. You try to turn your head, to break the hypnotic pull of his eyes, but he catches your chin. His fingers are rough, warm, and possessive. He forces you to look at him, to acknowledge the shift in reality. You are clinging to a ghost, he whispers, his breath hot against your skin. The woman who walked into this building tonight, she doesn't exist anymore. She was a construct, a suit of armor made of silk and ambition. But I can smell the truth underneath it. His thumb strokes your lower lip, a shocking, intimate gesture that makes your breath hitch. I smell the fear. I smell the adrenaline. And beneath that, I smell the desperate, aching want. You are tired of leading, aren't you? You are tired of being the one who holds the sky up. Your body betrays you again. A tremor runs through you, a physical admission of the truth he just spoke. The exhaustion is deep, marrow deep. The constant vigilance of your career has worn you down, and his presence offers a terrifying, seductive alternative. The freedom of having no choice at all. You think you are fighting me, he murmurs, moving his hand to the nape of your neck, his fingers tangling in your hair. But you are only fighting yourself. The corporate ladder doesn't go any higher than this room. You have reached the summit, and the only thing waiting for you here is the fall. He tightens his grip, just enough to tilt your head back further, exposing the vulnerable column of your throat to his gaze. So tell me again about your position. Tell me about your autonomy. Or tell me the truth, that you have been waiting for someone strong enough to take it all away. The silence that follows is heavy, filled with the unspoken answer. You can't say the words. You can't admit that the cage he built feels safer than the open wild of the market. But your pulse, hammering against his thumb, confesses everything for you. You are not a vice president. You are his. And the terrifying part is that it feels like a promotion. Silas steps back, creating a sliver of space that feels colder than the air conditioning venting from the ceiling. He walks to the floor-to-ceiling window, his reflection ghosting over the city lights that sprawl out like a circuit board below. He is giving you a moment to breathe, but you find that oxygen is difficult to process without the proximity of his scent. You remain pressed against the edge of the desk, your hands gripping the wood as if it is the only solid thing left in a world that has turned to liquid. The silence stretches, taut and heavy, until he speaks to the glass. There are conditions to this acquisition, he says, his voice low and devoid of negotiation. The standard employment contract is insufficient for what we are establishing here. The HR department deals with employees. I am dealing with property. He turns slowly, his silhouette cutting a jagged line through the backdrop of the skyline. The darkness of the room seems to gather around him, feeding his presence. First, the open-door policy is revoked. You are no longer accessible to the herd. Your time, your attention, your mental energy, these are finite resources, and I have monopolized them. No one speaks to you unless I permit it. No one looks at you unless I allow it. You have spent a decade being public property, a figurehead for shareholders to critique. That ends tonight. You are now a private asset. He begins to walk back toward you, his strides measured, eating up the distance with terrifying grace. Second, the burden of choice is removed. You have spent 10 years deciding the fate of products, of personnel, of markets. You are exhausted. I can smell the fatigue in your skin, a bitter note underneath the floral scent of your perfume. You carry the weight of the world in the tension of your shoulders. I am taking that weight. I will make the decisions. I will set the pace. I will determine where you go, what you wear, and how you spend your nights. He stops in front of you, close enough that you can feel the heat radiating from his chest, a furnace contained within fine wool. He reaches out, his hand hovering over your shoulder before settling heavily on the nape of your neck. His thumb presses into the sensitive cord of muscle there, not quite a massage, but a reminder of control. You think this is a loss of freedom, he murmurs, his eyes locking onto yours, stripping away the last of your defenses. But your body understands the truth. Look at your hands. They have stopped trembling. Your heart rate has synchronized with mine. You are not losing your autonomy. You are trading the anxiety of command for the security of submission. You are trading the chaos of the market for the absolute order of my will. His fingers tighten on your neck, tilting your head back, forcing you to bare your throat to him. It is a vulnerable, dangerous position, yet a spark of dark, heavy pleasure coils in your stomach. Third, he whispers, his voice dropping to a vibration that rattles your ribs. There is no resignation. There is no severance. You do not leave this room, or this building, or this life, until I decide you are finished. And I am a man of infinite appetite. The terms hang in the air, absolute and irrevocable. He isn't asking for your agreement. He is rewriting the laws of your universe, narrowing your world down to the span of his reach. And as you stand there, pinned by his gaze and his grip, the terrifying realization washes over you. You don't want to negotiate. You just want to say yes. You try to pull air into your lungs, but the atmosphere in the room has become too heavy, displaced by the sheer mass of his presence. Silas watches the struggle. He doesn't intervene immediately. He lets you feel the suffocation of your old life dying, the panic of the executive persona grasping for a foothold that no longer exists. You want to cite HR policies. You want to mention the board of directors. But those concepts feel like distant memories, fading static against the high-definition reality of his hand on your neck. You are still thinking, he observes, the vibration of his voice traveling through your skin like a low-voltage current. I can hear the gears grinding. You are calculating risk. You are analyzing exit strategies. He moves closer, eliminating the last inch of space between his suit and your blouse. The heat is overwhelming now, a physical, tangible force that seems to soften your bones. Stop. The command is simple, quiet, and absolute. It shuts down the frantic noise in your head as effectively as pulling a plug. His other hand rises, not to hold you, but to trace the line of your blazer's lapel. His fingers are thick, rough-skinned, sliding over the expensive fabric with a proprietary slowness. He isn't admiring the tailoring. He is assessing the wrapping paper on his gift. This armor, he murmurs, his knuckles grazing the swell of your breast through the layers of silk and wool. It served its purpose. It kept the predators at bay. It made you look formidable to the weak men who sat across from you in negotiations. He grips the lapels, his knuckles brushing your collarbones. But you are not negotiating anymore, and you certainly don't need protection from me. A sharp tug pulls you forward, off your heels, until you are balanced precariously against him. Your hands instinctively clutch his biceps to steady yourself, and the muscle beneath the suit jacket is rock hard, unyielding. You are holding on to the very force that is dismantling you. The irony isn't lost on him. A dark, knowing sound rumbles in his chest. See, he whispers against your temple. Your hands know where they belong. They don't want to hold a pen. They don't want to hold a gavel. They want to hold me. Your knees weaken. It is a physiological collapse, a surrender of the structural integrity that has held you upright for 10 years of corporate warfare. You sag against him, and he takes your weight effortlessly, his arm banding around your waist like an iron bar. The relief is instantaneous and terrifying. You didn't realize how heavy the burden of standing on your own had become until he took it from you. He buries his face in the curve of your neck, inhaling deeply, taking in the unique signature of your fear mixed with desire. The sensation of his nose, the heat of his breath, sends a shockwave of arousal straight to your core. It is a betrayal of everything you stand for, yet it feels like the only honest moment of your life. You smell like distress, he growls, his teeth grazing the sensitive skin over your pulse. And beneath that, absolute desperate need. You are wet for this. You are trembling not because you are scared of what I will take, but because you are terrified I might stop. He pulls back just enough to look into your eyes. The golden flecks in his irises are burning now. Admit it. You didn't sign that paper to save your job. You signed it because you knew, the moment I walked into the boardroom, that you belonged on your knees. The truth hangs between you, suspended in the cool air of the executive suite. It shatters the last remnant of your resistance. You aren't a vice president now. You are the prey that has finally been caught, and the only thing left for you to do is let him eat. The blazer is the first thing to go. He peels the structured wool from your shoulders with a slowness that mocks the urgency of your pulse. It slides down your arms, a heavy, dark skin being shed, and lands on the plush carpet with a soft, final thud. He doesn't look at it. He kicks it aside with the toe of his shoe, dismissing the symbol of your authority as if it were nothing more than a wrapper. You are left standing in your silk blouse and pencil skirt, shivering not from the temperature of the room, but from the sudden, violent exposure of being stripped of your rank. The air conditioning vents above hiss softly, a mechanical breath that feels freezing against your heated skin, highlighting the feverish warmth radiating from him. Better, he rumbles, his voice a low frequency that seems to vibrate in the fluid of your inner ear. He circles you, a slow, predatory orbit that allows him to inspect every angle of his acquisition. That jacket was a lie. It was padding. It was an attempt to make your silhouette match the jagged lines of this city. But you are not jagged. You are soft. And tonight, you will learn the value of that softness. He stops behind you again, his chest brushing against your shoulder blades. The heat is immense, a stark contrast to the cool, recycled air of the office. He leans down, his lips grazing the sensitive cord of your neck, sending a cascade of goosebumps racing down your arms. You close your eyes, letting the darkness behind your lids amplify the sensory imprint of him. Wood smoke, rain, and the intoxicating pressure of absolute authority flooding your awareness. "Forget the organizational chart you memorized," he whispers, his breath hot and damp against your skin. "Forget the vertical integration and the reporting lines. Those structures were built for people who need rules to function. In this room, there is a new hierarchy. It is very simple, and it is absolute." His hands slide down your arms to capture your wrists, pulling them back until they rest against his hips. He is forcing you to feel the solid, unyielding reality of him. "I am the gravity. You are the satellite. I am the structure. You are the interior. There is no board of directors to appeal to. There is no human resources department to mediate this transition. There is only the weight of my will and the capacity of your body to accept it." You try to find a rebuttal, some scrap of policy to cling to, but your mind is blank. The logic of the boardroom has been replaced by the logic of the den. You realize, with a jolt of terrifying clarity, that you prefer this. The complexity of your old life, the constant decisions, the strategic maneuvering, the exhaustion of being in charge, is dissolving. It is being replaced by a singular, crystalline purpose, to please him. You are trembling, he notes, not with concern, but with satisfaction. His thumbs press into the pulse points of your wrists, monitoring the frantic rhythm of your surrender. That is good. Fear is a form of respect. And arousal is just your body's way of acknowledging that it has found its master. He turns you around, his grip shifting to your waist, his fingers digging into the soft flesh through the silk. He lifts you effortlessly, placing you on the edge of the desk. You are now eye level with him, but you have never felt smaller. The city lights behind him form a halo around his dark form, casting him as a deity of shadows and commerce. "The merger is effective immediately," he says, stepping between your knees, claiming the space that belongs to him. "And the first order of business is total liquidation of your resistance." You are suspended there, the hard edge of the mahogany desk biting into the back of your thighs, while the overwhelming heat of him presses against your spread knees. It is a precarious, vulnerable position that strips away the last illusions of your corporate dignity. In the boardroom down the hall, you sat at the head of the table, dictating terms. Here, on this desk, you are merely the feast laid out upon it. Silas doesn't rush. A man who owns everything has no need for haste. He steps closer, his powerful thighs brushing against yours, the friction sending a jolt of static electricity straight up your spine that makes your breath hitch in the silent room. He reaches out, his large, warm hands settling firmly on your waist, his thumbs pressing into the soft curve of your hips through the thin silk of your pencil skirt. It isn't a tentative touch. It is the heavy, possessive grip of a master craftsman inspecting his raw material. He is testing the give of your body, the way you instinctively soften and mold yourself under his hands. You realize with a sudden hot flush of shame that you are leaning into him, seeking the structural stability of his strength because your own has completely evaporated in the atmosphere of his dominance. "The audit begins now," he murmurs, his voice a low, tectonic rumble that vibrates through your chest cavity. "We need to see what truly lies beneath the packaging you presented to the shareholders." His fingers glide slowly up your ribcage, tracing the hidden lines of your body with a terrifying familiarity. He knows the rhythm of your breathing better than you do. He knows the way your pulse stutters and races, a frantic Morse code of surrender tapped out against your ribs. You try to look away, to focus on the grid of city lights blurring in the distance, but his presence is a gravitational singularity that relentlessly pulls your gaze back to him. You are forced to look at the predator who has finally cornered you. And the terrifying part is that you don't see a monster. You see the answer to a question you've been too afraid to ask for years. "You have spent so long being the structure," he whispers, his face lowering until his lips are hovering mere millimeters from yours. You can smell the dark, intoxicating blend of espresso and raw dominance on his breath. You have held up the walls of this company. You have carried the weight until your bones are fracturing under the strain. His hand moves to the back of your neck, his fingers tangling roughly in the hair at the base of your skull. He tilts your head back, exposing the long, elegant line of your throat to his hungry, unblinking gaze. It is a gesture of absolute trust, forced out of you by the sheer biological imperative of his proximity. I am the foundation now, he states, the words stamping themselves into your psyche like a brand. You do not need to hold anything up. You do not need to be strong. You only need to be here, open and willing. The relief that washes over you is so profound it almost brings you to tears. It is a physical release, a tension leaving your muscles that you didn't even know you were carrying. The heavy exhaustion of decision-making, of strategy, of constant vigilance, it all drains away, leaving you hollow and ready to be filled by his will. You are no longer the titan of industry. You are something much more precious. You are his. And as his hand slides lower, tracing the curve of your spine with possessive intent, you realize that this authority isn't a cage. It is a sanctuary. For the first time in your life, you are safe, because the monster guarding the door is the one holding you. The ink drying on the heavy cream stock behind you is irrelevant. It is a legal fiction, a necessary piece of theater for the auditors and the Securities and Exchange Commission. Silas knows this, you know this. As he stands between your spread knees, the expensive fabric of his trousers brushing against the sheer silk of your stockings, the document on the desk feels like a relic from a civilization that died 10 minutes ago. The real contract isn't written in legalese or filed in a cabinet. It is being written right now, in the silent, heavy language of pheromones and body heat, in the way your pulse jumps to match the predatory rhythm of his breathing. He glances over your shoulder at the signed paper, his expression one of mild boredom, before his eyes snap back to yours with terrifying intensity. That, he says, nodding slightly at the document, is for the world outside. It tells them who pays your salary. It tells them who owns the intellectual property and the brand equity. He leans in, his hands sliding up from your waist to cup your ribcage, his thumbs pressing firmly into the soft flesh just beneath the curve of your breast. The heat of his palm seeps through your blouse, branding you long before he leaves a mark. But it doesn't tell them who owns you. The distinction hits you like a physical blow. You realize that the signature you scrawled with his gold pen was just the opening ceremony. The true ratification of this merger is happening in the way your breath hitches when his thumbs stroke upward, grazing the sensitive underside of your chest. It is happening in the way your thighs instinctively relax, parting slightly further to accommodate his presence, creating a space that is shaped exactly like him. Paper is fragile, he murmurs, his voice dropping to that low, vibrating frequency that bypasses your ears and resonates directly in your womb. Paper can be shredded. It can be burned. It can be lost in a fire or voided by a judge. He releases one hand from your ribs to trace the line of your throat, his index finger following the frantic beat of your carotid artery. I don't deal in fragile things, and I don't deal in terms that can be voided. You tremble. It is a full-body shiver that starts at the base of your spine and terminates in your fingertips. It isn't cold. It is the physiological shock of being recognized. For years, you have been a collection of skills and accolades, a resume and a skirt. Silas doesn't see the resume. He sees the animal underneath, the one that has been starving for a handler, and he is methodically dismantling the cage you built to hide it. This, he whispers, his finger pressing into the hollow of your throat, is where I sign. He isn't talking about a pen. He is talking about the pressure of his dominance, the way he is currently rewriting the neural pathways of your brain to associate pleasure with his command. He is talking about the scent of him, that overwhelming dark musk of cedar and rain that is currently saturating your clothes, your hair, and your skin. He is marking you with an invisible ink that every other predator in this city will be able to smell. They will look at you and know, without a single word being spoken, that you are no longer available. You are waiting for me to kiss you, he observes, his eyes narrowing as he tracks the flush rising on your chest. You think that is the seal. You think that is the romantic climax of this transaction. He shakes his head slowly, a predator amused by the naivety of its catch. A kiss is a request. I don't request. I claim. He moves his hand to the back of your neck, his fingers tangling in your hair, gripping the strands close to the scalp. It is a firm, controlling hold that forces your head back, exposing your face to his scrutiny. The final signature is your submission. It is the moment you stop thinking about the board of directors and start thinking about how good it would feel to be completely, utterly used. Your eyelids flutter. The shame should be burning you, but instead, it fuels a dark, heavy heat in your belly. He is right. The logic of the boardroom is gone. The only thing that matters is the weight of his hand and the terrifying, beautiful certainty that you will never have to make a decision again. You are not signing a contract. You are becoming one. And as he leans in, his breath mingling with yours, you realize that this is the only deal you ever truly wanted to close. The morning sun on the glass facade doesn't feel like a new day. It feels like a spotlight on the scene where your inhibition died. You walk through the lobby, the click of your heels echoing the rhythm of a different woman. Yesterday, that sound demanded attention. Today, it is the steady beat of a heart that has been regulated. The security guard nods, but you feel the heat rising. You wonder if he can smell the change, the lingering trace of cedar and musk that no shower could scrub away. You are wearing your armor again, the blazer, the high neckline, but it feels different. It isn't a shield anymore. It is wrapping paper for the secret underneath, a secret that is currently rewriting your entire existence. The elevator ride is a confinement of anticipation. As the numbers climb, your pulse climbs with them, sinking to the proximity of the executive suite. When the doors slide open, the air pressure drops, becoming heavier, denser, charged with his presence. It is a biological signal your body recognizes instantly. You walk past your old office. The door is open, the desk is empty. It looks like a museum exhibit of a life you used to live, dusty and irrelevant compared to the vibrant, terrifying reality of the night before. You don't stop. You continue to the main boardroom where the transition team waits. They are loud, filled with the nervous energy of men who think they still have careers. But you don't take the head of the table. You walk past the empty chair that used to be yours. You move to the seat at the right hand of the massive ebony table, closest to the CEO's private office. The room goes quiet. They are confused. Then the heavy mahogany doors open. Silas walks in. He doesn't look at the team or the charts. His dark eyes lock instantly onto yours, heavy with a proprietary weight that pins you to the leather. He sees the flush on your neck. He sees your hands folded on the table, devoid of a pen or a plan. He sees the ring of bruised skin on your wrist, where his fingers held you down. He smiles, a small, terrifying curve of his lips that tells you he knows exactly who you belong to. He takes his seat. The atmosphere realigns instantly around his gravity. He speaks, his voice a low rumble you feel in your spine, discussing assets and liquidation. To the others, he is discussing the company. But every time his eyes flick to you, you know he is discussing the night before. He is talking about stripping assets, and your thighs clench in memory. You sit in the silence of your surrender, listening to him dismantle your legacy, realizing with dark adrenaline that you don't care about the company. You are just waiting for the meeting to end so the doors can close again. You are waiting to be owned. You spent a decade climbing a ladder to nowhere. Now the view from the bottom of his bed is the only one that matters. The papers are filed, but the real contract was written in his touch, signed with your surrender, and sealed by the weight of his claim. You are no longer fighting to survive the market. You are thriving in the cage he built, protected by the very monster you were warned against. The world sees a vice president. You see the leash in his hand, and the terrifying truth is that you would never ask him to drop it. You have finally found your purpose. The door clicks shut. The meeting is over. But your service is just beginning. If you want to know what happens when the lights go out again, subscribe. This acquisition isn't finished.